Today we're going to continue talking about the 6 steps to answered prayer. What I'm doing is I'm using the Lord's Prayer as the basis of getting our prayers answered. You see, one thing we know about Jesus, his prayers were answered. When he prayed for sinners to repent, they fell on their knees. When he prayed for the sick to be healed, they were cured. When he prayed for storms to stop, they listened and they hushed and became quiet. When he spoke to the dead to rise, they rose from the dead. His prayers were so powerful that the disciples were so impressed with him that they said to the Lord, "Lord, teach us to pray." They wanted the same ability. Now, what did Jesus tell them? Did he say to them, "Well, I'm sorry, men, you're not going to get my results because I'm the Son of God"? No, you know what he says? You want to get those results? Let me teach you the secret to prayer. And in the Lord's Prayer is the secret to answered prayer. Too often, though, when we look at the Lord's Prayer, we just think of it as a religious prayer. In fact, sometimes the moment we begin with the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven," some of you flash back to your catechism days, flash back to Sunday school days, and there you start to fold your hand, bow your head, and you get really religious. Let's get religious. "Our Father who art in heaven." We even try to throw in a British accent if it'll help, But the trouble is we're missing out on what Jesus was trying to accomplish in the Lord's Prayer. He wasn't saying this is the prayer that you pray just word for word, although there's nothing wrong with doing that. But he's showing us the secret to his very powerful prayer life, a prayer life that healed the sick and drove out demons, a prayer life that changed nations. His prayer was so powerful and effective. What was the secret? It's the Lord's Prayer. And the first thing he tells us is you begin by saying, "Our Father who art in heaven." He's in heaven. He's bigger than anything on the earth, and there's nothing too hard for him. So think big with God. He's telling the men, don't limit God. Don't think he can't save this soul because he's too far gone. Don't think he can't heal that sickness that is incurable. Don't think he can't save that marriage that is loveless. Nothing is too difficult for God. And then he says, "Holy is his name." And he's saying by that, don't you think for a moment you're going to get your prayers answered because of your good name. Is your name doesn't matter. That means you don't pray saying, "I'm so good and God's, my name really counts with God," as if somehow you're going to have your prayers answered because of your own holiness or righteousness. He says, "Holy is your name." In other words, you're going to answer for your name's sake, not for my name's sake. My name won't do anything. But God's holy name, Jesus' holy name, will give me access to the Father. You've seen this. But then we come to the third step today. And what is it? Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. What is that saying? There's 2 aspects of that prayer that's important. Is thy kingdom. How many of y'all know you have to have a king if you're going to have a kingdom? What is he saying is you are praying to a sovereign God who is king. And as you all know, there is no one over the king. There's no one that constrains the king to do anything. No one can twist the king. No one can make the king do anything. The king is king. And you cannot make the king do what you want because he's king. But if that's all he said, then we would be left saying, "Okay, king, help me, but do what you want." And many of us think that's what prayer is just ask God, "God, help me here, do this, but you're king, you'll do whatever you want." No. The second part is, "Thy will be done." Now, it's not a request. It's not "let your will be done." It's actually an emphatic phrase. Thy will be done. That means somehow the king must convey to me who's praying what the king wants. What is the king's will? So if I don't know the king's will, then I cannot pray with confidence because I don't know what he wills. We come then to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9. It says, know therefore that the Lord your God is God. Can you all say God is God? What is that saying? There's nobody higher than him. Nobody can constrain him, force him to do anything, because he is God. If I can, see, prayer is not twisting God's arm. Prayer is not moving God to do something, because if I can twist his arm, if I can move God, if my prayers can cause God to do something, then God is not God. So prayer is not pushing him to do anything. But wait a minute. There's a second aspect of this passage that many miss. Therefore, I said, know therefore, here's the two things you should know. Know therefore that your God is God. But here's the second thing. He is the faithful God. Can you all say faithful? Now, how do you know he's faithful? You can't speak of faithfulness unless you speak of one's word. For example, if you promised to, let's say, work in our children's department, then if you made that promise, we should expect you to be at such and such date, because now you're given a promise. But how many of y'all have never promised to work in the children's church ministry? Let me see your hands. You haven't promised. It's not a trick. I'm just finding out who's late. No, I'm teasing. No, the point is, if you haven't promised it, I can't say if you don't show up that you're not faithful. Only if there was some sort of word that preceded one's faithfulness. So faithfulness, you can't speak of faithfulness in terms of just in a vacuum. Faithfulness must be in terms of a promise, a word. So now watch this. God is sovereign, which means he does what he wants. But if that's all God was sovereign to do what he wants, then we would not know exactly how to pray, because we wouldn't know what he wants. So here's what God did. Though he is sovereign, he bounds himself to his word. So he looks to us creatures and says, listen, even though I don't have to, I'm going to give you this promise. I promise to do this for you. I promise to do that for you. I promise to help you in this area. I promise to come through over here. I promise to do this. Now, once he starts making promises, then the sovereign God then has given us some sort of solid foundation to pray for his will. Because now by promising something, we now know it's his will to do it. Otherwise, he would not have promised it.